Michael here, and in this video journal, The Necks Part 3, I'll start by cutting the mortise, and then I'll cut the tenon. I'll drill the holes for the bolts through the end of the tenon and through the heel block into the body of the guitar. I'll glue on the heel cap on the back of the neck, install the truss rod veneer, cut the body out for the truss rod as it extends over the body, and then we'll do a final assembly of the neck and the body. Keep watching. Well, it's time to attach the neck to the body by cutting the mortise and tenon joint. I have my body here on the workbench, and I've taken and marked the center line down the middle of it with some pieces of little easy stick tape. And I've got my neck all cut out, ready for the tenon to be cut once I figure out the proper angle to cut on the body. I've taken one body and I've mounted it in my jig over here to cut the mortise. I need to make a few adjustments and come some marks on here. First thing I want to do is to mark the depth of my cut coming in, which is going to be 83 millimeters. Draw a little line, 83 millimeters. And then I want to make sure that I've gotten the center line that I have marked down the body centered into the jig right here. And then the body also has to be flush up against the top. Now that I've gotten that where I think I need for it to be, I'm going to go ahead and put the guide on here. And to set the depth of the guide, I'm just going to place a little dowel here, slide my jig up to it, and screw it in place. And then I've made a little plexiglass template that's got my center line marked on there so I can make sure that my center line of that template is marked is even with the center line that I've got on my body. I have my body mounted in my mortise and tenon cutting jig, and I've taken my router and I've bottomed out the bit to the top of the guitar body, and then I've taken my 7/8 of an inch spacer to mount the depth that I need to go to. Now, since I'm going to be on the receiving end of all the dust, I'm going to go ahead and put a little shop vac accessory on here. Okay, I'm going to start with some shallow cuts, and then just to make sure that I've got everything centered the way I need it to be. There we have our mortise cut. Now I can go ahead and okay, I'm ready to cut the tenon in my neck, and to do that I want to make sure that I get the neck angle to match the body. So to do that, I'll take my body and put it on this little platform right here and slide it right up against this aluminum channel. And I have marked the location of the saddle, which is 11 3/8 of an inch. That's the top of this piece of tape. And I want that distance there to be the 3.5 millimeters that we talked about earlier. I have my rule set here to 3.5 millimeters, and looks like we're right where we need to be right there. So I've set that jig up for this particular body and neck combination. The tenon template is mounted on the jig, and I've aligned it so that it's 83 millimeters up from the back, which matches the depth of the mortise, so the tenon will fit. I've got my template in there to route the tenon out. I've taken the router bit and bottomed it out against the top of the neck and marked my tenon at 7/8 of an inch. Okay, I've reached down to the bottom of my depth slots, but I still haven't cleared my barrel bolt hole locations in there. And one of the reasons is I left that tenon a little proud when I cut it out, just to give myself some wiggle room. So I need to come down a little bit more. And so I'm going to take this out and trim my tenon if I need to down to 7/8 of an inch. Well, now that I've got the mortise and the tenon cut on the neck and on the body, it's time to go ahead and drill out the holes that allow the bolts to go through. Now, I already have the bolt holes in my tenon. I've located those and drilled those out before I cut the tenon. Now I need to go ahead and locate the position of the bolt holes here and also on the body. And to do that, I'm going to use the same template that I used to mark the holes on the tenon. And then I have my little template here. And I'll just slide that over till it's right in the center. Poker here. It's actually a instant repair spring off of a saxophone. Very sharp and very stiff. Goes through that little bitty hole in my template easily. Okay, I don't know if the camera will show this, but there's the two little holes that I'll need to drill out there. I can go ahead and do my body as well. Okay, and I'll just go ahead and poke a little pilot hole, positioning holes. One there. And one there. Alrighty. Now things should line up. These holes are rather small to see, so I'm going to go ahead and make them a little more obvious here with this little awl. And on the back of the tenon as well. I'm going to drill a 17/64 of an inch hole through here. So I'm going to just go ahead and line up my brad point bit in my template hole. That's good right there. And in the bottom hole. Okay, there's the holes in the neck tenon. All right. Now we can test fit things. Okay, I've got my barrel bolt nuts here. Put them right on the end of the tenon and line it up. Gracie, you might want to move, sweetie. Just a little bit, anyway. Okay. And there's our neck bolted on. So we've got a nice tight joint right there, which is great. I'm a little proud. I'm a little proud right through here, which is no problem at all. I'll simply adjust the bolt holes through the heel block down just a little bit and get that flush. Well, now that I have the bolt holes cut and everything bolted together here, I've got the neck attached to the body, and I've got a nice, smooth, clean joint right here. The next thing I want to do is go ahead and trim the bottom of my heel to match the curvature or the angle that my body is making right here, so I don't have this weird angle that's coming up. So I've actually transferred the angle of the back to the heel, and then once I trim that down, I'll be able to put my little ebony overlay on there. So that's the next step, is just to go ahead and trim to this angle here on my heel. Get this camera shot here. I'm ready to sand this angle on my heel, and I've set my table to this angle. And I've also mounted just a small piece of oak here so I can ride the edge of my tenon to make sure I keep everything square down on this end. Okay, there we go. I've got my angle cut. And now I can glue my ebony cap on. Well, when I was sanding the bottom of my heel to the proper angle, I went ahead and sanded the little ebony cap that will match that angle too, and marked which way is up. And I'm just going to go ahead and use this little jig that I've made to glue it together. It's just I'm just going to start with some little clamps there, and then one here just to keep it down. Okay, I'll let that set for just a little bit till that glue starts to grab, and then I'll switch out and put some heavier clamps on there. We'll have the neck ready for the next step, which is to go ahead and install the truss rod. And the truss rod I'm using is a double action truss rod that I got from LMI. And I have taken some solvent and I've wiped it down to get any oils or greases that are off on it. And go ahead and put it in the slot that I've routed out. I'm going to use 2-part epoxy to glue this in. I'm just going to put a very small amount down the length and the top of my truss rod. And I'm not gluing the truss rod into the slot. I'm putting some epoxy on the top of it here. I'm going to glue a spline over the top of this. And I've got a piece of wax paper I'm going to put on top of that just in case any of that gets on top. And we'll just clamp that down. And I'll just set that aside. Once it's dry, I'll trim any off the top that I need to, and it'll be ready for the next step. Well, the neck blank is ready for the next step, which is to cut the channel for the extension here of the truss rod on into the body. So I've marked the location where it's going to be, and I just need to cut that out. So first I'm just going to use a little razor knife here. So I'm just simply going to put it up against the side and saw down. Then I've gotten the slot cut to depth on either side. I can use my little Dremel router. Go. All right, we have the body finished and the neck is ready for its next step. I've gotten the truss rod slot cut into the top and do one last test fit here. Okay, this is what we've got at this stage. Neck to body joint looks nice and tight. Got my heel cap on at the appropriate angle here. Nice flush joint where the neck meets the body. Now I still have my pieces of soft stick tape with my center lines drawn because I'm going to need those later. I'm not going to take those off just yet. But now we're ready for the next step. Well, that concludes this video journal on the necks, part 3. Next time I'll start working on fretting the fingerboards. If you'd like to support the channel by buying me a coffee, there is a link down below. And thank you all so much for watching.